the growth is going to be contingent on viable businesses that have a marketplace, that have something that have buyers to what they're selling, and can scale and grow, and that puts me in the position as the employer of, like, because employers are trying to work leaner and meaner, and at some point, though, I may not bring back if you scale back the downturn that we've just gone through, and instead of like a 100,000 person company, let's say I'm 10 people, and I laid off 5. I'm more than likely not right now, even if I see business picking up, I'm not going to hire back 5 people. But and this is the sentiment I hear from a lot of small business owners as well. And the whole, that's not even counting the whole issue of healthcare and employment tax and a lot of the stuff that's been going on politically. I don't want to talk about that, but I do want to talk about, though, is I don't think they're going to hire those 5 back. But if they do have sustainable growth again, they're just going to be smarter about what they need. It's not so much about, if I need somebody who's better at customer service, or I need a new developer back to bring that person back. It's just going to be about them having a business that actually has growth again. We need economic growth to truly have job growth, I think. I mean, you can't, again, it's even with it can't happen in a vacuum. Jobs are just going to appear. So you've got to have sustainable businesses, and I think once we start, and we're seeing it now. The media may play. We can see. I know the unemployment numbers haven't moved very much. Slowly they have, but there is hiring going on. There is businesses that are growing again, and actually they're not going to necessarily hire back the same volume, like I just said, like they had before. But they are hiring again, and they're expanding, and that also means, there's a movement now in organizations to better have workforce management analytics, right? To better understand where predictive analytics, to know that if in my organization I have, I had laid off these people, I have these people retiring soon, and do an analysis of where I might need to be, where the skills gaps are, where am I going to have to bring new people on in my organization to have that dashboard of analytics. That's something that's a lot of talent management vendors and standalone vendors are really starting to do a lot of great work in, and exciting work. And I think having that type of technology to be able to analyze not only where I'm at, but where I'm going and where I may need to shore up my workforce, or not. If the ones that aren't performing well, who do I need to do away with or move around? I think that we're going to see a lot more of that. PeopleClick Authority just bought Acquire within the past 2 weeks, which is a workforce analytics firm, and I think we're going to see a very exciting technology related to predictive analytics in the workforce. That's going to help us better plan workforce planning.
Maybe make your job obsolete.
No, I don't think so, because you still need it's not like we're going to be having what was the Jeopardy computer's name?
Watson,
thank you.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of it. We're not going to have, it's not like Watson's going to start replacing those of us in human capital management, but we just need better tools. And the fact is that, now that I'm with Ventana and looking at the research they've already done in the past, 62% of organizations, and we're talking thousands of companies, big and small, that they've surveyed in the past 2 years, are still using spreadsheets for for managing compensation and for analyzing workforce analytics. I mean, spreadsheets, right? It's like macro madness, right? So but that's because, but now there are more, again, technologies that are going to allow us for better planning workforce and to redeploy those resources to better hire as well, right? Where do we actually need, and maybe that will help with identifying who and how many that we can hire and continue the growth. But it still goes back to having business that has a marketplace, that has economic growth, and...
But I wanted to ask you, like, if the right person came in tomorrow and you knew that they were going to make your business bigger, Wouldn't you just make the numbers work so you could hire them?
Oh well, I think that's the business owner prerogative, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's if I, cultural fit aside, which is always part of the equation still. But if this is somebody who's a heavy hitter salesperson, or they're a developer who has been around in the space, all my competitors, and I have a chance to bring them on board, yeah, I think that you do that as a company. You will do that, and I think that's that aside, the sheer numbers that we're talking about to bring those down, the unemployment numbers, you need to have much broader. And another thing that I told you earlier that I'm an economics junkie, and even though I wasn't an econ major, I was a psych major in college. When you look at post World War II, right, in the 50s, we were the superpower, economic superpower. It was a boom, right? Just economic growth all over the place, manufacturing, services. I mean, we were producing tons of stuff and selling all sorts of stuff. Now, again, all with all political issues aside and everything else, we've got emerging super economic powers all around us that we didn't have 50 years ago, right? And we've got to learn to better play in that environment, and that affects how we hire too, and it also affects where we hire. Because I remember this article that I read in the San Jose Mercury News, I don't know, 2 months ago, and I remember blogging about it too, but how Silicon Valley was actually starting to hire again, and it's exciting, but a lot of the positions they were hiring for were in the Pacific Rim, or they were in Europe, or they were in other places, not necessarily here in Silicon Valley, depending on what the positions were, and people were actually taking them, those who had been out of work and been retraining themselves. They're like, I need work. So, and they're going, but I mean, it's so that's interesting part of the growth. But we've got India, we've got China, we've got a lot of changes globally, economically, and you look at our debt that's this big, and but the fact is that it's a global world. How many times people have been saying that, I don't even know.
So to get to
sorry,
try and zoom in on the
you
conversation.
can edit that part.
Well, so it is a global world, but what can the average person do to just promote job growth?
Well, I'll tell you, when you talk about the average person and what we've seen happening, and we've seen it in the past two downturns, you've had like this entrepreneurial revival occur, right? So you have, and in fact, one of the things that I run every week with my partner Megan Bureau at Talent Culture is an online Twitter chat, and we talk about workforce cultures thing. We did one recently, which was about just that subject of how do you classify yourself in the workplace today, and how there's a lot more entrepreneurs and consultants now than there ever been before, and how contingent workforce is on the rise. I think what you have is you have a lot more people just saying, I'm not going to wait for something to happen, I'm going to make something happen. So whether they have an idea for a new tech firm, whether they just want to go into consulting, whether they want to just contract with a variety of employers, not just one, but a variety of employers. It's kind of the businesses of me, I think, is something that's changed, and the average person becomes the business of me, right? So I think that is
People becoming their own business.
yeah. I mean, that's what it is. And if you're a contractor or consultant, you don't have to have any staff to be your own business, right? So I think and again, I don't have any hard numbers with that. The business of me, I think a lot of people like me actually who have done multiple things to stay employable, be more entrepreneurial, and start their own business in a sense. I did with my Marcom HRsay site, and doing some consulting services, and now I'm with Ventana. And I think that again, it goes back to the career management and ownership of because the stuff's not going to come to you. You got to make it happen. And I think that this one in particular, and the longevity of that people have been out of work, again, I don't have any numbers, but I know that there's just a greater number of people who are taking risks to say, I'm going to start something, because it ain't happening right now.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that you do get. I mean, I know going back to our space, right? HR and technology and recruitment technology. There's a great startup culture right now in the Bay Area and all over the place in our space, because recruiting's coming back, right? There's a lot of recruitment tech players that are like, hey, I've got something that's going to help you better recruit, source, hire, whatever it is, and it's the new and there's a lot of that exciting innovation going on right now, particularly in recruitment technology. And I think, and then you have that, and I just talked to just this past week alone, 5 different startups that are hiring now. So that's good news, right?
Yeah.
Because they're still small, they're still bootstrapped. Maybe they've got some funding, maybe not, but they're starting to bring a few people in here and in here, and if you play that out exponentially, you're going to continue to chip away. As long as they have a market and they can, they're sustainable as a business and they can grow, it's good news.
With how things are going right now, what is your recruiting pain point, and how can that trend be changed?
What is mine personally, you mean, or?
You could either take it personally, what bothers you about the recruiting industry, or what you think is making the recruiting industry the most inefficient.
I think, and this is a hard one to answer, because I think the one thing that companies struggle with when they hire is that you can do a lot of upfront screening. You can do, you do your reference checks or in-depth reference checks. You can do assessments. Usually, a lot of that testing that goes on is pretty are fairly brief. Even some of the better assessments that are on the market, finding long-term fit is difficult to do, and I think only time really will truly tell whether or not that person's going to really take in that position culturally and do the job and grow and be productive. And I think that if there was a way to better screen and assess up front the resiliency and the adaptability of that person in any given position, that's some secret sauce that would be really sweet to have. And I think and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if technology it gets us a little bit closer with getting better at match and fit from a variety of different kinds of activities. But again, the human part of hiring and true fit, cultural fit, professional fit, long term, remains to be seen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen over time. So I think if that'd be one thing that I'd love to see get better, and if it's technology and better, even people assessment, and not necessarily that's technology driven. I don't even know what that means. I'm a huge proponent of emotional intelligence. Okay, so if there was a way to, and I think people who are balanced and emotionally intelligent, which just means they're self-aware of how they react in any given situation, and they can manage that, right, and have impulse control. If you tick me off, I'm not going to.
It's hard to put on a test.
It is, but there are EI assessments that exist, and I think if you can have people who are just more empathic and self-aware, that in combination with how make sure they're obviously qualified skills-wise for the job too, and the experience plays to that. But the focus is so much on intellect and education. We've seen too many kind of implosions, whether it be leadership or just employees that have no impulse control, and then long term they end up just kaboom. So I don't know. I guess my through this ramble, I'm just trying to say if there's a way to assess long-term fit in the short term pre-hire, that would be great. And I just don't know if that's just I'm making a magical realism right now or not, if that's ever going to happen.